Welcome to my next Madden 23 new look rebuild or post-draft rebuild, whatever you want to call it. Today I am using the Buffalo Bills. My rules are pretty simple. I have 3 seasons to win a Super Bowl, otherwise the rebuild is a failure. Obviously with this team, you have a pretty good starting point. You have a 93 overall superstar X Factor in Josh Allen. You have a 97 overall superstar X Factor with Stephon Diggs at wide receiver. You also have an 84 overall Gabe Davis, an 83 overall Dawson Knox at tight end. They drafted Dalton Kincaid in the first round. He comes in as a 76 overall star depth trait. They also drafted O'Cyrus Torrence in the second round. He is a 72 overall star depth trait. The defensive side of the ball also has a pretty good starting point. You have a 94 overall X Factor Von Miller, a 92 overall X Factor Tre'Davious White, and then they drafted Dorian Williams in the third round. He comes in as a 73 overall star depth trait and will be our starting middle linebacker. As good as that receiver room is, let's make it even better. We're going to bring in DeAndre Hopkins. That's going to be the main point of this rebuild. Josh Allen was on the list of quarterbacks that he said he wanted to play with. They also have a solid defense and decent management, so they seem to fit all of DeAndre Hopkins' checklist. Just to boost the defense up a little bit more, we're also going to bring in defensive back Marcus Peters. Those are going to be the only signings that I make, though. Generally, I make a few more, but I feel like this team is obviously a lot better than some of the other rebuilds I've started with. But my expectations for Season 1 are actually going to be pretty high. I'm hoping to at least make it to the AFC Championship game. Well, signing DeAndre Hopkins definitely helped out this team. We finished the season 16-1 and are going into the playoffs as the #1 seed. Josh Allen finishes the year with 4,600 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. On the ground, Damian Harris ran for almost 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns. And receiving, Stephon Diggs, 107 catches, 1,400 yards, 8 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins didn't hit 1,000 yards but got 7 touchdowns. Gabe Davis got 8. Dalton Kincaid got 7 in his rookie season. Dawson Knox finished with 5. Let's check out the defense and see how they did. Leading the team in tackles is Matt Milano with 97. Sacks is going to go to Von Miller with 29. Alright, he had a pretty good year, obviously. And Tre'Davious White is going to lead the team in interceptions with 5. Around the rest of the league, Russell Wilson seems to have had a pretty good bounce back year in Denver with 5,100 yards, leading the league in passing. Jimmy Garoppolo had 5,100 in Vegas. Then you had Dak Prescott with 5,000 and Patrick Mahomes. But in touchdowns, that goes to Dak Prescott with 46, and who led the league in interceptions? That would be Kirk Cousins with 21 of them. On the ground, Saquon Barkley led the league in yards with 1,500 and also in touchdowns with 23 and receiving. Let's see, that goes to Stephon Diggs with 107 catches, yards goes to Devontae Adams with 1,600, and touchdowns goes to Amon-Ra St. Brown with 21. In the first round of the playoffs, we will get to take on the 7-seed Denver Broncos because they just upset the 2-seed Raiders 28-0. After going 16-1, we finished the year in the divisional round with a 1-point loss to the Broncos, 30-29. Looking at the highlights, it looks like we almost tied the game here with about 1:37 left with a 67-yard touchdown pass to Gabe Davis, but then Tyler Bass would miss the extra point. Denver would get the onside kick, end up with a first down and running down the rest of the clock. Looking at the box score, Josh Allen threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Russell Wilson threw for 365 and 3 touchdowns. Running the ball, no one did a whole lot. They never really do in that style of simulation. Gabe Davis had a pretty good day though, 7 for 169 and a touchdown, but Tim Patrick, 9 for 129 and 3 scores. This season's Super Bowl goes to the Green Bay Packers, led by quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. So they moved on from Jordan Love, and apparently it pays off. They defeat Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville 28-7. The NFL MVP is Dak Prescott. Coach of the Year goes to Doug Peterson. Offensive Player of the Year goes to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Defensive Player of the Year, we do get Von Miller to have that award. Offensive Rookie of the Year is Garrett Wilson. Defensive Rookie of the Year is Aiden Hutchinson. Sorry, I can't really do anything about those guys winning Rookie of the Year. Well, we definitely have a problem with the salary cap because I have not even gone in to re-sign anybody, and we currently have negative $6 million in cap space, so apparently the Bills are in pretty big cap hell. So for right now, everyone is gonna have to walk, including DeAndre Hopkins and Marcus Peters. Peters doesn't really want to come back though. Hopkins has a lot of interest in returning though, so we'll try to get him back if I can free up some cap space, but I'm definitely gonna have to cut some people. There's not really a lot I can do here. I can get rid of Ed Oliver, which would free up $10 million in cap space, but there's no big cuts I can make that would free up a ton of room. I didn't want to release him to get absolutely nothing, so we have traded Ed Oliver to the Chicago Bears in exchange for a second-round pick. About the only other move I feel like I can make to free up any sort of money is going to be releasing running back Nyheim Hines. I don't really want to because he hasn't been on the team that long, but it would free up about $4 million in cap space, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of him. I would say getting rid of anyone else doesn't really help us out that much. We could get rid of Deion Dawkins and free up almost $5 million, but we would still need a good left tackle. So Ron Johnson may have to be our number 2 corner this year because I doubt I'm getting Marcus Peters back. Micah Hyde would free up about $3.8 million, but he's still an 89 overall, so I think we're going to have to roll with what we got. With those couple of moves, I managed to get us to nearly $7 million in cap space, but obviously we're not going to be able to bring back a guy like DeAndre Hopkins with that, and realistically, we're not going to be able to get any starters, so I'm going to make the decision to not participate in this free agency, so we're going to go right to the draft. Going into the draft, here are the draft picks that we own, but if you've never seen any of my rebuilds before, the way I handle the draft in these things is I only pick in the first 3 rounds, and then I let the computer take over from there. 1, because I'm terrible at picking in the later rounds, and 2, it feels like a lot of luck anyway, so I just let the computer handle it. But let's see who we're mocked to take here in the final mock draft. We're at pick 28, and we're expected to take right tackle Aaron Mixon. That may not be a bad pick, except for he does have F run blocking. I don't really like that. With the 28th pick, we are going to take a right tackle, but we're not going to take the one that it mocked us because, like I said, I don't like that he has F run block. This guy's run block is at worst AD, but he also has A awareness and A pass block. So we're going to go ahead and take right tackle Freddie Dawson out of Washington State, and he will come in as a normal depth trait, which does suck, but I think he's better than the other guy. With the 13th pick in the second round, the pick that we actually got in exchange for defensive tackle Ed Oliver, we're going to take defensive tackle Keyshawn Raymond out of UCF. He has A power move, A tackle. Let's see if we know his awareness. It's a B. He has A play rec as well, and he's decently strong. We're going to go ahead and take him, and he will come in as a hidden depth trait. With the 28th pick here in the second round, I'm going to take outside linebacker DeAndre Hatcher. Now, this may be a bit of a reach because he is projected in rounds 3 to 4, but I think he will be gone by the end of the 3rd round, which is where our next pick is. He has the fastest left outside linebacker 40 time. He has A to C awareness, A tackle, A zone coverage. Not great block shedding, but hopefully the tackle and zone coverage can make up for that. So we're going to go ahead and take him, and he will also be a normal depth trait. The final pick I'm going to make in this draft will be center Mark Holliday out of Vanderbilt. He has A pass block, B impact block, and B run block, and will come in with a hidden depth trait. We ended up with a 73 overall right tackle, a 75 overall defensive tackle, a 74 overall left outside linebacker, and a 71 overall center. I am fine with the draft picks that I made there. A 65 overall quarterback, a 65 left tackle, a 68 overall safety, and a 68 overall wide receiver. The highest rated player in this draft was a running back the Dolphins took in the 2nd round with Gregory Dixon, and then a defensive back in the 3rd round is a 77 overall, and the number 1 pick was an outside linebacker that's a 76 overall. Looking at the offense heading into the next season of this rebuild, it sucked to lose a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, but I still feel like we're going to have a really good offense. I don't know if we're going to go 16-1, but I feel like with Diggs and Gabe Davis, we're still fine. Obviously, losing a guy like Ed Oliver in the offseason so we could free up some cap space really did suck, but we used that draft pick to draft, I think, a pretty good defensive tackle, 76 overall, hidden depth trait. We'll see how much of a step back the defense has. My expectations going into this season are the exact same ones as last season. I want to get to at least the AFC Championship game. We were so close to getting there last year. Let's see if we can get the job done this year. I am in complete disbelief of what the hell happened in this division this year. Everyone finishes 8-9, the Jets win the division, and we completely miss the playoffs. What? Josh Allen ends up throwing 5,300 yards, 40 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. Running the ball, Damian Harris ran for 1,200 yards and another 15 touchdowns. Receiving, Deontay Hardy, 85 catches, 1,300 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Gabe Davis with 1,300 yards and 9 scores. Stephon Diggs with 1,208 touchdowns. Dawson Knox had 5. Dalton Kincaid got 2. Over on defense, Matt Milano led the team in tackles. In sacks, Von Miller got 16. Greg Russo, I'm so sorry I don't know how to say his name. I really feel like I should know how to say his name. And interceptions, Dorian Williams got 2. And DeAndre Hatcher, the rookie outside linebacker, got 2, along with Taylor Rapp. Well, Baker Mayfield seems to have had a career resurgence in Tampa Bay, throwing for 5,500 yards and 47 touchdowns, both of those good enough to lead the league, and interceptions goes to Deshaun Watson with 23. Carson Wentz, who is now the starting quarterback in Green Bay, had 22. Don't know what happened to Teddy Bridgewater. He won a Super Bowl and apparently bounced. Running the ball, Nick Chubb led the league in rushing yards with 1,700, almost 1,800, and 27 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs had 21. And now about receiving, Chris Godwin led the league in receptions? No, it's Cooper Kupp, who still puts up insane numbers every year in simulation. Chris Godwin was 1,600, and then in touchdowns, that goes to Cooper Kupp and Amari Cooper, who both got 18. Looking at the team rankings down here, we had the number 8 offense in points per game, the number 4 passing offense, 18th rushing offense, but we allowed the 31st most passing yards. The second Super Bowl in this rebuild goes to the Seattle Seahawks, who win 31-21, led by Super Bowl MVP quarterback Taysom Hill. Well, that's back-to-back unbelievable quarterbacks that have won Super Bowl MVP. The NFL MVP goes to Baker Mayfield, Coach of the Year is Doug Peterson, Offensive Player of the Year is Cooper Kupp, Defensive Player of the Year is Max Crosby, Offensive Rookie of the Year is a wide receiver for the Panthers, and Defensive Rookie of the Year is a defensive end for the Seahawks. Before going into re-signing this year, we have $26.9 million in cap space and 12 players ready to negotiate. Starting at wide receiver Gabe Davis, he has some interest in coming back. Micah Hyde has no interest. Tyler Bass has a lot of interest in coming back. Connor McGovern doesn't want to come back. Our punter doesn't want to come back. Deontay Hardy just had like a 14 touchdown season and doesn't want to return here. David Edwards is leaving as well. Tim Settle, Jordan Phillips, a right outside linebacker, our left guard, and Kyle Allen. All right, so we have $27 million in cap space according to the screen here. I guess we're at least going to try to bring back Gabe Davis. I was able to get Gabe Davis to sign a 4-year contract with us, so we at least get him back. That move does bump us down to about $13 million in cap space. Let's see if we can get Tyler Bass to come back. On a 3-year deal, we'll have about $9 million left, and he is also happy to be returning. At the start of this free agency, it shows we have $9.9 million in cap space. Let's see if we can make a roster move or two to try to free up a little bit more money. The first move I'm going to make is center Mitch Morse. He's 32 years old. We drafted a center last year. We're going to go ahead and release him and free up about $8.5 million in cap. Well, at least I get to actually compete in this free agency a little bit. We're offering a contract to Bryce Hall and wide receiver Darius Slayton. Let's see if either one of them are going to sign. Well, now Hall has a lot more interest, but we do land Darius Slayton. I've upped the offer for Bryce Hall a little bit. We are now listed as his top offer, so let's see if he is going to take that contract now. He is gone because he is now a member of the Buffalo Bills. Jumping to the draft, we're going to take this trade with the Patriots. We're going to fall back 3 spots from pick 10 to pick 13 and pick up a 3rd round pick. We're going to trade back one more time. We're going to fall 12 spots back to pick 25, but we also pick up a 2nd and a 3rd round pick this year. And with pick 25 here in the 1st round, we're going to take defensive tackle Steve McLean out of Mississippi State, and he will come in as a hidden depth trait with 93 strength. Now with pick 10 in the 2nd round, I'm going to take left outside linebacker Marcus Harden out of Georgia. I know I took an outside linebacker last year, but he wasn't a hidden depth trait. We're going to see if this guy's any better, and Harden will come in with a hidden depth trait. With pick 25 here at the end of the 2nd round, we're going to take safety Gregory Coleman. This is the pick we just got from San Francisco. He comes in with B hit power, A man coverage, C zone coverage, and he's one of the fastest safeties in the class. He has B awareness, B play rec. We're going to go ahead and take him, and Coleman will come in as a normal depth trait that actually kind of surprises me. In the 3rd round with pick 10, I'm looking at taking this player, defensive tackle Jabari Bryan. We only have 3 defensive tackles on the roster, so this guy would just be for depth. The problem is he's projected day 3, so this may be a bit of a risk. He has B block shedding, B tackling, C to F awareness, but he does have A play rec. He's also one of the strongest defensive tackles in the class, so we're going to go ahead and take Jabari Bryan, and he will come in as a normal depth trait. Just a few picks later, I believe this is the pick we got with the Patriots. At pick 13, we're going to take right guard D'Angelo McAllister, another player that's projected in day 3 with A awareness, A impact blocking. He's decently strong. We're going to go ahead and take D'Angelo McAllister here, and he will also be a normal depth trait. The final player I will select here in this video will be middle linebacker Demetrius Washington, just as a backup to Dorian Williams. He has B tackle, B zone coverage, F pursuit, which isn't great, but he does have elite level speed. So we're going to go ahead and take Washington here, and he will also be a normal depth trait. So not a great draft from me, but let's go see how these overalls turned out. We end up with a 73 overall defensive tackle, a 72 overall outside linebacker, a 74 overall safety, a 73 overall defensive tackle, and a 74 overall guard, and then finally a 67 overall middle linebacker. So I feel like I did pretty solid. There's not a lot of hidden depth traits here, but I feel like 70s in the third round is not a bad draft pick. That one is probably a bad draft pick. But then the computer took a 70 overall safety in the fourth round, a 67 overall defensive end, a 65 running back, and a 65 corner. Ratings wise, the best player in the draft was defensive back Peter Hood that the Packers took with the 5th pick, and the number 1 pick was a 78 overall defensive end. Here is your offense going into the third and final season of this rebuild. Not a whole lot has changed. We got a new right guard in McAllister. We were able to re-sign Gabe Davis, and then we also added wide receiver Darius Slayton. Over on defense, it looks like Jabari Bryan is a better player than McLean right now. We're going to move McLean up to be the starter, but the computer will 100% change that. The rest of the defense, though, I really like. Raymond ended up being a superstar depth trait. Von Miller is still here. We have Tre'Davious White back as a 93 overall X Factor, and Rapp is now an 82 overall superstar depth trait. Before I simulate this season, I like to show this before the final season of every rebuild. We are an 87 overall offense, an 85 overall defense, so we are an 86 overall team. The expectations for this season are really obvious. The last two have been get to the AFC Championship. One year we lost in the divisional round. The next year, the entire division goes 8-9, and we completely missed the playoffs. Still don't really know how that happens, but either way, in season 3, our expectation is to win a Super Bowl, because other than that, this rebuild is a failure. Before we see how we finish this year, let's take a look at the stats. Josh Allen throws for 5,100 yards, 39 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Running the ball, Damian Harris goes for 700 yards and 11 touchdowns. And receiving, Stephon Diggs with 1,600 yards, 118 catches, and 7 touchdowns. Gabe Davis got 1,200 yards and 7 scores. Dawson Knox with 9 touchdowns. But Darius Slayton comes in with 12 touchdowns in the slot, so he did pretty well. Over on defense, Matt Milano once again leads the team in tackles. Sacks goes to Von Miller with 14. Steve McLean, the rookie defensive tackle, got 7.5. And interceptions, Jordan Poyer got 6. Dak Prescott ends up leading the league in passing yards with almost 5,300. Touchdowns goes to Chuck Ramsey, a rookie quarterback in Houston. Jimmy Garoppolo, still in Vegas, throws for 41, along with Will Levis, who is now a Viking, and Patrick Mahomes, who is still a Chief. On the ground, Alvin Kamara ran for almost 1,600 yards to lead the league, and also 19 touchdowns, which is tied for the league lead with Jonathan Taylor and Tony Pollard. And then receiving, let's see who led the league in receptions. That is Stephon Diggs. In yards, that is Devontae Adams. And touchdowns, that goes to Christian Kirk, who caught 18. We finished this season 12-5, so we do win the division. We are headed to the playoffs to try to win a Super Bowl. We finished as the 4th ranked offense in the league and the 3rd ranked defense. We have the 12th offense in points per game, but the 4th defense in points per game, and the passing defense seems to be a lot better. We are the 2 seed, so we will get to host the 7 seed Baltimore Ravens in the first round. Jumping to the end of the game here, you can see it was never really close. The final score is 34-14, so in 3 seasons, we failed to even win a single playoff game. I feel like we had a pretty good team. I really don't know what holds this team back. Once they got to the playoffs, they kind of played bad both times. I know the first year we only lost by 1, but it was to a 7 seed. This year we lose to a 7 seed again. This season ends in the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl 38-21, but the main point in this video was to win a Super Bowl for Buffalo, and obviously we failed to do that, so this rebuild is considered a failure. Hopefully you guys still enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you next time.